In today's class, we are going to see the development tools which are related to Android development. Okay, and what are the parts of that Android Studio which you guys have installed. Okay, let's get into this today. So before I proceed, please understand that before Android Studio came into picture, this was available, Android Developer Tools, ADT. Okay, it was a package available from Android's website, okay, which can be added to Eclipse. Okay, Eclipse was the primary ID available for Android in the beginning. Okay, since it was given as a separate tool, it can be added to NetBeans also, but it was very difficult to work with them. Okay, but Eclipse had a little bit more sophisticated way of giving Android development. So when I started learning, okay, it was there in Eclipse. Okay, we had Eclipse as the IDE and ADT was added to it. ADT is Android Developer Tools, which I'm showing you on the screen right now. And that was the way in which you're supposed to develop. Okay, and it was Eclipse is not meant for Android, but then Eclipse was modified for Android. Okay, and since there were a lot of issues revolving around this, they changed it. Okay, and they took an IDE called IntelliJ. I don't know how many of you have used it, but you all have used it in the form of PyCharm. Okay, if you have used PyCharm, you know that it's the same company. Okay, PyCharm is based on an IDE called IntelliJ. All right, it comes from JetBrains company. All right, so IntelliJ is the same base IDE for Android Studio also. So those who have used PyCharm will see somewhat similar menu system, and the look and feel of PyCharm will be there in Android Studio. Okay, so the one development environment. Okay, I hope you guys know what is an IDE, integrated development environment, which is very essential when it comes to higher applications. For console applications, no, not required. Even Notepad is more than enough. Okay, but when it comes to higher applications like web applications and desktop applications and mobile applications, we obviously prefer an IDE. Okay, and the IDE for app development in Android, native development of Android, is Android Studio. Okay, this was the old icon of Android Studio, but anyway, right now it's modified to this icon. Okay, the Android Studio is the complete package which is required in order to develop and run Android applications. Okay, please remember that. Now, before I move into the IDE part of it, IDE, I think it's better to show you in person than or in hands-on than by the slides. Okay, but I want to tell you what are the components. Okay, what are the tools available, or what are the things which comes along with this in order for us to develop or start development in Android. Okay, so basically the first and foremost thing is Android SDK. The full form of that is Software Development Kit. Okay, Android Software Development Kit comprises of a few things. I put it as sub points. Just have a glance of those words. Okay, now is it compulsory for me to understand all these things? Not so much, but it will be very good if you could understand what these mean, because every time an issue happens, it will be revolving around any of these things only. Okay, so you need to know what is what in order to figure that error out. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, with that in mind, let's move on. Platform tools, build tools, SDK tools, emulator, ADB. Okay, I've already spoken about emulator and stuff in the video. Please do refer to that. Okay, now when it comes to Android SDK, it is a setup, or it is installed along with Android Studio, and it comprises of all these things. Okay, when you install, you need not bother about whether all these things are there or part of it or something like that. The moment you click on next and you click on download and all those things, Android Studio will do it automatically for you. Okay, when you create a new project for the first time, Gradle will be automatically downloaded and installed. Okay, and next time you create another project, Gradle will be just refreshed. It will not be reinstalled again. Once it is installed, it just uses it from the cache after that. Okay, and then you have something called Logcat. I'll explain these things shortly to you guys, but please remember, these are core part of the Android Studio IDE in order for you to start developing. Okay, keep that in mind. The first thing, SDK. What is Android SDK? It is a tool which is downloadable. Actually, you can only download SDK from the website. Okay, in that video, again, I've shown the website through which you download Android Studio. Below, you will have some links to download only the IDE, only the SDK. Like that, you have different options. Okay, it is a downloadable component for the Android SDK. it includes complete set of development and debugging tools for the Android SDK, like emulator, SD card, SQLite, APK builder, etc. etc. A lot of things are there. It's not important that we understand it, but I wanted to understand the words with the two keywords which they have used. Okay, it's a complete set of development and debugging tools. Okay, so in order to understand that, you should understand what is development, what is debugging. Okay, majority of the time we will be developing faster. Debugging will be the biggest issue in Android. Okay, you will understand it. Those who have already done it will understand it better. But since you guys are starting right now, please do remember, development might not be that great of a work here in Android, but debugging, that's a bigger task. Okay, how to fix errors which are coming will be a task. I'll tell you why it's a challenge shortly, but then remember that. Okay, so tools from the Android SDK will help you to do development as well as debugging. Okay, now that is SDK tools. What about platform tools? Okay, that is used to support the features for the current Android platform, whichever you're going to work on. Okay, including ADB, which is acting like a bridge to communicate. Okay, I'll talk about this in detail shortly. But remember, SDK is to develop and debug in Android. Platform tools are specific to the features of the current Android platform in which you are going to target and develop on. Okay, so whenever we start development, okay, you should always target the latest version of Android. Okay, I'll go a little bit in depth about this when we start the program tomorrow, but I wanted to remember what I'm saying right now because I'll be repeating this again tomorrow's class. Okay, whenever when we start developing, we should always target the latest Android operating system. Okay, the latest one which is available currently for us. Okay, that's what is the developer's good practice. Okay, please remember that. Let's move on. Okay, so what is Android SDK and where is it available? Now, those who are using Windows, okay, I think majority of you are using Windows. So let me just tell you where you can find the Android SDK. Normally, how Python will get installed. Okay, it goes into users, app data, then it goes into Python's folder. Okay, I hope you have seen that. Similarly, when it comes to Android SDK by default chooses one location. You can change that location later if you want, but Android Studio normally puts it in this location, not what I've written there. Okay, but then in Windows it is C users, whatever user is logged in, your name. Okay, and then in that one app data, and in that app data you will have a folder called local. In that local you will have Android. Okay, in that Android you will have the SDK. Okay, so that is the location. The reason why I've written just Android underscore SDK is because it is platform independent. When I say platform independent, you can install and run or work with Android Studio in Windows, Linux or Mac or even a Chrome OS. Okay, that is up to you guys. But then the setup file or the SDK tools where it is located, okay, that is what is located there is platform independent. And it is required no matter which platform you are developing on. Okay, when I say which platform you're developing on, I'm talking about Windows, Linux or Mac, whichever you are using, doesn't matter. Okay, this SDK tools will be located in this location where Android SDK is stored inside that tools folder, inside that bin. Bin stands for binary. I hope you guys know that. All right, so let me move on. I just kept that word ADB. Okay, this is a very important component, guys. Please try to understand the full form as well as the meaning of that word. Android Debug Bridge. Okay, before I go a little bit technical about it, let's keep it very simple and understand how this works. In that video of the previous video, I've just told when you are trying to run a program, when you are trying to run an app, okay, you have two choices. One, you can run it on your actual phone, the phone which is in your hands physically, or you can use a virtual phone. Okay, in other words, we call it as emulator. You can use a virtual phone or a real phone. It is your wish. All right, but please note, where am I developing? Okay, please understand the question. Where am I developing? Where am I deploying? Two words. I wanted to notice this for whatever applications you have done so far. Okay, till today, before Android or any mobile applications you have begun, till now, where have you developed? Where have you deployed? Let's take C program or C++ or Java. You create a Java program in your laptop. You click on run or you compile and run. It runs in your laptop only. Okay, in the last semester, some of you would have done Swing, some of you would have done J2EE frameworks or servlets or JSP or EJB or JSF or Spring or Struts or Hibernate. Okay, you create the program or PHP or Python, whatever it is. Okay, you create the program in your laptop, you run the program in your laptop itself. Okay, so only thing is you use PyCharm in one, when you run the window comes below. You use NetBeans in one, when you run it opens Chrome in your laptop only and shows you the output. Okay, almost all applications you guys have done so far, it gets created in your laptop, it runs in your laptop. But this is a little bit different. It gets created in your laptop. You write the code in your laptop, in your IDE, in your Android Studio, okay, wherever you want to write it. You write the code in your laptop, but when you want to run that, you cannot run it on your laptop. Rather, you should run it on a phone, okay, because you're trying to develop a mobile app. So it should run on a mobile, simple as that. Okay, so how do I connect between a laptop and a phone? Okay, the way in which you connect, which means there are two different people involved, right? So a laptop and a mobile phone, two different components are there, and you would like to run, or in other words, debug, to find out any issues are there. Okay, you want to debug your Android application, whatever application you're developing, to check whether it is proper, if it has any problem, how to fix it. All those things we are going to see by passing it or sending that file to a phone. So you need a bridge between two people. All right. So when there is two different places involved, you need a bridge, or you need a connection between these two people in order for the computer to send the created program into the phone. Okay, let it be a virtual phone, let it be a physical phone. Okay, but please remember, even though it is virtual, it is going to think itself as a phone itself. Okay, it is going to be assuming that it is an actual phone. All right, and even if you're deploying it on an emulator or on an actual phone, you are sending data from a laptop, okay, a personal computer, to a phone, a mobile device. Okay, so when there are two people, obviously there is a bridge between them. Okay, because it is not always available, it is only when you require it. So there is a bridge between these two, and that bridge is called as Android Debug Bridge. Okay, short form is ADB. Please remember, it's very important. Now, why am I stressing on this so much is because majority of the complaints which I had got when I was taking this, and when people try to install Android Studio in their laptop, is most of them use some antiviruses like Avast or AVG or ESET or ENOD, something like that. Okay, most of the antiviruses think that this file is a virus. Okay, I hope you guys understood why. That's why I explained why this name matters. Okay, the reason is because it is reaching out of the computer. I hope you guys follow. ADB is a application which creates a bridge between two different devices. Okay, not just between your NetBeans and your browser. It is within the same system, same process. But ADB will connect from a system to another system. Okay, so there is a high chance that through that ADB, a viruses can come. Somebody else can hack your system, because you're connecting, you're making a bridge between two different systems. If something comes from that system, you cannot stop it if the bridge has been established. I hope you follow what I'm saying. All right, so that is why most of the antiviruses will think that this file is a virus, which allows or it's a security threat to your operating system. So what your AVG or Avira or this ENOD, all those things, what they will do is they will put this particular file, this exe file, this adb.exe file in quarantine. Okay, when I say quarantine, I mean the software quarantine. Okay, it will not be allowed to work. If ADB does not work, if there is no bridge, obviously you cannot deploy your application, which means you can develop Android application, you cannot run it. If you want to run the Android application, ADB must work. Okay, please remember this. So let me move on. What is ADB? It's a versatile command line tool that lets you communicate with a device. Okay, this command facilitates a variety of device actions like installing, debugging apps, and it provides access to your Unix shell, which you can use to run a variety of commands on a device. Okay, it is basically a client server program. It has three components. I'll just go through them. It's not important. This is for theory purpose, but then in practicality, I just want you to understand ADB is a file, or is a tool which allows you to deploy the application which you created on your laptop to a device. Let it be a virtual device or an actual device. Okay, remember this. I'll show that shortly. So ADB has three components. One, a client. When there is a client, obviously there is a server, and also there is one more thing called ADBD. Okay, which is a daemon. Okay, this is not the one which you think. It is a background process. That's why it's called as a daemon. Okay, which runs commands on a device. The daemon runs as a background process on each device. Okay, so a client sends the commands. A server communicates between the client and the daemon. Okay, the server also runs as a background process in your development machine. Now, please note all these things what I said is running as a background process. Okay, which means most of the time you won't even see how they are working, but this is just the theory part in which we explain what is ADB, what does it do. Okay, where is this located? It is located in the SDK, the same place what I told you, at SDK/platform tools. Okay, previously I told where the SDK's tools are located. It is Android SDK tools bin. Okay, here it is available in platform tools. We'll find that folder shortly. I'll do that now. Okay, all right. So I just want you to notice here. Okay, I've right now in my C drive, I've already installed Android Studio, and I've kept everything ready. Okay, the Android Studio is installed, and I did not do anything else except for clicking on next, 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 and finish. Rather, also when Android Studio starts for the first time, it will ask to download a few things. I have allowed the system to download a few things. Okay, one thing you guys to be very careful is that you need to make sure that internet is available all the time. Okay, otherwise it's difficult for you to download all the components which are necessary, at least for the first time. All right, so as we move on, I'll just go to users. Okay, my name is here, so let me just open my document. Okay, the folder which I'm looking for is app data, and it will not be available here by default because it is a hidden file. So what I'll do is on the top you see that there is this one called hidden items. So let me just enable this. Okay, when I enable it, one more folder will get opened up, app data. Okay, I'm going to open this folder, app data, and inside that folder there is a folder called local. All right, so let me open that local folder, and then there'll be a folder called Android. Okay, so let me open that Android folder. There I have my SDK. Okay, I'll just zoom in that particular place. I'll just want you to notice this. Okay, so where is the SDK located of my Android Studio? It is in C, users, your name, whichever username you have. Okay, in that one there is a folder called app data, which will normally be hidden. Okay, but you can enable it by just enabling this choice called hidden items. If you disable it, you won't be able to see that app data. But if you enable it, you'll be able to see app data. In that one, local, inside that Android, and there is your SDK. So let me open that SDK. You'll have a lot of things inside that. Okay, as I already told you, SDK tools are available in SDK tools, and inside that the folder called bin. And the tools also includes emulator. I hope you are able to see what and all I'm showing here. Okay, so that is also available here. So let me go back to SDK and open platform tools, and in platform tools you have adb.exe. All right, if this file is missing in this location, okay, I'm repeating it again. If this file adb.exe, if this file is missing in this location, this particular location of your laptop, which means your antivirus is eaten it up. Okay, you'll have to go to the antivirus and remove this device and say, remove this exe file and say allow on this device. Okay, so if you allow this file only, you'll be able to run the program. Okay, run an Android app and check it whether it works in your actual phone or in the emulator, doesn't matter. Okay, this is the file, guys. So I want you to remember this. So let me just go out and let me continue the slide. I hope you guys have understood what I've said. Okay, so my next title will be Gradle. Okay, I want you guys to just have a glance. Okay, I'll not explain that diagram as such first, but then I wanted to see the topmost on the left hand side, application module. Okay, and the first box what you see there is source code. I hope you are able to see this, right? This is what we are going to write, and the other ones will be added shortly. I'll explain that, but right now in this diagram we have very clear idea of what is source code. Okay, so you write the code in Android. Okay, and at the last one, what do you want as the output? You want to debug or release the APK. Okay, you want to if you want to install an app on a phone, you need to send or install the APK. So that is the target. where am I starting? I'm starting by writing a source code, and where am I ending? I'm writing, or I'm getting an APK file, which I'll install it on a phone or a emulator, doesn't matter. Okay, this is my target. Now from that level, from source code to that APK, who is going to do? All right, now you see that the middle, the dotted lines are there, managed by Gradle and the Android plugin. It's written there. Okay, I wanted to notice this part. Okay, managed by the Gradle and the Android plugin, what you see here. So this, our task will be to write source code and provide the resources and give the ADL files. Okay, and what and all these files are dependent on. Okay, all these things we are supposed to give, that's all. But whose work is it to compile and convert it into that Dalvik executable and compile the resources also, and then create an APK using the APK manager? This much work, whose work is it? Is it my work? Am I going to do this? No. This entire thing should be managed by a package manager, a build manager. Okay, so because these are all same tasks, okay, it is bad to repeat the tasks again and again. So what we do, we give it to somebody else. Okay, if it is a set of repeated tasks, we can give it to a manager who will take care of this. Their only task is to do this. So we have automated using a build system, and the build system which Android Studio uses is called Gradle. Please remember that. Okay, let me just go through that. What is Gradle? It is a build system based on Groovy. That's a language. Okay, building an app, you can build an app without Gradle also, but you will have to do a lot of tasks like compiling the Java code, and converting it into a DEX Dalvik executable file using the DEX compiler. Okay, and then putting all these files into the APK manager and creating an APK. A lot of work is there. Okay, so building an app without Gradle can be done on the command line, but you have to learn what each tool does in the SDK and learn their specific usage, which is not required for me. Okay, I can automate that process because it is repetitive. It is going to be the same even if you are writing a hello world or a complicated application. Whatever you are doing, this work is going to be the same, building the app. Okay, so it is always best to use a build system. This is where the build system enters the picture. And the build system, what does it do? It automatically takes all the source files, Java or XML, and then applies the appropriate tool and groups them all into one compressed file called as APK, the Android package. Okay, so it gives you an APK file. Okay, so this procedure of from the source code to an APK can be taken care by the Gradle, which means I need not bother about it. Okay, all I need to do is install Gradle and make sure that Gradle works without any issues. That's all. Gradle will take care of everything else for me. Okay, I'll show that in working in the next class. Let me move on. Okay, in Android Studio, projects consist of one or more modules. Okay, I want you guys to understand what is a module. This is important for you to do the project also. Okay, which I'll be shortly asking you guys. I hope you remember that. Okay, so what is a project and what are modules in a project? Okay, please be very careful of that. Every app or every application you develop, okay, will not be done as a full-fledged project. Rather, people will divide it. Always we take a bigger task. Once you divide it into smaller tasks, it is manageable. Okay, so it's always recommended that you divide your work into modules, right? So one project can consist of one or more modules. Please remember that, which are components that you can build, test, and debug independently. In order to understand this, I would just take the reference of Django, which you had studied last semester. In Django, when you create start a project, okay, please note the command what you issue will be start project. Okay, start project will create a folder in which all the Django files will be there. Then you go and create an app inside that. You create an app. Okay, project is different, app is different in Django. Okay, I hope you follow what I'm saying. You can have number of apps inside one project. I hope you guys follow, right? Same thing here in Android also. Android is we are creating an Android Studio project. That one project can contain n number of modules. It will have minimum one module because you're doing a hello world means that's one module. But if you're having a full-fledged project, you will divide your work into small pieces. Okay, so best example would be to, for example, Google Apps. Okay, Google is the project. Apps, you have forms, you have spreadsheet, you have that presentation, you have Word. Okay, all these are apps inside the same project called Google. All right, so like that, one or more modules can be there, which are components that you can build, test, and debug independently. Okay, they work independently, but they are grouped under one project. So each module has its own build file. So every Android Studio project will contain two Gradle files. One top level, project level. Okay, another one module level. Please remember this. Gradle will be given to each thing. One, for the entire project, you will have one top level build file as well as module level. Every module which you have in your project will have a module level build file. Okay, just remember this. I'll show them in working in the next class. Okay. The next important tool, the final important tool which I'm going to discuss in this class is logcat. Okay, what is logcat? Why do we require it? Okay, what is log first of all? All right, please understand this. Every time you do a task, now before I go into the presentation, I want you guys to understand something. How so far we have been developing applications. Okay, just like how I told you for the deployment part. Okay, when you create a Java code or C code or C++ code or Python code, you type the code. Okay, you run the program. If there is an error, syntax error, it will show in the IDE itself. If it is a logical compile time, runtime error, it will stop the project, show you this is the exception which has happened. It will just show a big set of message called a stack trace. It will just show you what is the problem, where that problem arises, what is the issue. It only shows that much. Okay, so with that, you will have to understand what has happened, at what point it has happened. All those things will be able to you will be able to understand by looking at that exception message. Now, keep this in mind. The system in which you are running the application and the system in which you're getting the problem is the same. So it is not a problem. Okay. Now, you can see the message in the system itself. Like for example, if you have made a mistake in NetBeans in the last semester, when you make a mistake, NetBeans has an output window. Okay. You will see the exception there. If it is a web application, you will see the 500 server error in the browser itself. You will see all these things on your own. But what about your phone? Okay, in your phone, please remember guys, most of you would have encountered this issue. In your phone, if a problem happens with a particular app, your app will crash and say, unfortunately, this app has stopped. Okay, I hope most of you would have found this issue. Okay, sometimes some apps will behave like this. You try to open it, it suddenly closes and says this app has unfortunately stopped. Okay, that's all, nothing else. You will not know why it crashed. You will not be able to understand what happened. Okay, all you can do is uninstall, reinstall, clear the cache, restart the phone, try all these things and then run the application once again. That's all as a user you can do. But as a developer, that's not enough. Not just restarting will fix my issue. Sometimes, yeah, restarting will solve your issue. But most of the time, the app crashes because there is an exception. Okay, when I say exception, it's something which the developer did not predict will happen. Okay, and it has happened. So your app does not know what to do and it crashes. Okay, so at that point, I need to know till what level my app has reached, till what the issue has happened. Okay, now even though it might look like a silly thing to tell right now, but please remember this guys, logcat is going to be your best way to solve issues. If you want to find or if you want to be a good Android developer to debug applications and find out what issue has happened, you have to utilize logcat to the maximum. Okay, what is logcat? It's a command line tool which will dump a log of system messages, including stack traces when the device throws an error and messages that you have written from your app to the log class. Okay, I'll show this in working, but remember what I said, the definition. Okay, what does logcat do? Logcat logs the system messages. What do you mean by a log? It's like a diary, writing what you did from the beginning you joined and till now what you've been doing, just writing whatever you have done. Okay, in systems we call it as log. You keep a log of what you are doing. Okay, so your apps normally have developers written some code which will be portrayed, or it will be sent to the log saying that this has happened, this is going to happen. Okay, I'm in that particular position here, I'm right now here. Okay, most of you would have done this right now. Where we have written is system.out.println, or you would have written cout. Okay, most of them would have taught you like this. When they write if else condition, you write in if condition, in else condition, in try catch, in try block, in catch block. You print it into the console and see where it is printed. Okay, and but when it comes to Android application, where will you print? There is no console here. Okay, you will not be able to show this user you are in if loop, you are in for loop, all those things you cannot show to the user, but you can always show that to the developer. User cannot be shown technical details, remember that. Okay, you cannot show him 404. Okay, and you cannot tell him the server error 500, 404, 500 all is for your understanding. Okay, what should I show to the user? User, you can say I cannot find the file which you are searching for. Okay, 500 server error, you should tell the user that something happened at our end. Okay, server issue, please try again later, or we are under maintenance, please come back later. Okay, you have to tell something which is simple for anybody to understand, not technical words. Okay, so in Android phone especially, when an app is running and there is a problem while you're testing or while you're developing, doesn't matter, when you want to find out what happened. Okay, let's say that your app works till a particular point. Let's say login page works, but when I try to submit my registration form, my app crashes, or when I try to order something, my app crashes. Till that everything works perfectly, which means that particular part has a problem. So you can write logs, you can put logs till a particular location where the problem comes, and see at what point the log is not available and till what point is the log available, which means you will know till what point the program worked properly and at what point the program exited. Okay, all these things are very essential. All right, the tag of a log message is a short string which indicates the system component from which the message has originated. Okay, so there are some shortcut keywords which will be added to this log, which will tell from where it came. I'll show that shortly. Okay, it is very helpful to debug Android apps since there are no visual interface to inform the developer exactly what exception has occurred. I want you guys to read that last point carefully. This is what I've been trying for the last 5 minutes. Okay, please try to understand that line. It is very helpful. Which one? Logcat is very helpful to debug Android apps since there are no visual interface to inform the developer exactly what problem has happened. I hope this is clear to you guys. Okay, so be very careful of this, guys. And the priority of the log, okay, what message you are passing, everything will have a priority, will have something called a short string denoting from where it came, in what context it has come. Okay, I want you guys to notice this, starting with verbose. Verbose is the lowest priority, okay, which means it just prints everything. It prints each and everything, verbose. Okay, it says I've started, I've gone here, you have clicked here, the number of frames that I've rendered in 1 second. Okay, all these things are not important for me. I don't care about it at all. Okay, because I'm not bothered about whether when my app is working properly, I should not bother about it. Okay, when will I come to a logcat? When I want to see if there is an issue and what is that issue and how to fix that issue. So the first one is the lowest priority, verbose, which is printing each and everything. Okay, we will normally not do that. We will not print each and everything and see what is happening when an app starts until till an app ends. We won't do that normally. Okay, next one, debug. This is the second priority, debug of information. Okay, what do you mean by debug? Okay, when you want to put, if you put log.d, all right, it just means that pass it as a debug information. All right, what and all you want to show the user as a debug information. Next one, just information. Okay, you just want to pass an info saying that you have reached in, you are right now in if condition, you are right now in else part, you are right now in try block, you are right now in catch block, all these things. You can give that in info. W is warning, which you need not create, system will create. Warning, error, fatal. The remaining three will be initialized. So you need not do it. But if you see the tag as W, it means it's a warning. If you see a tag on the log as E, it is an error. If you see a tag in the logcat which says F, it is fatal. Okay. If you don't see anything, probably it is silent because it is highest priority. Nothing is ever printed, but it is running in the background. Okay, nothing will be printed, but logcat will be always available and it is always there, but it is the highest priority, which means nobody will be able to see it. Because nothing is printed. Okay, it is just running in the background. Logcat will be always running in the background. If you don't have any issues, rather you have put any information or debug information or warning or error or fatal, nothing happens, it is silent. That's all. Okay, so I hope you guys have understood what I said so far. These are the theory part which is involved in your first unit. Okay, so all these are what we discussed today was only Android development tools. Okay, so with this I'll stop for today, guys. If you have any questions, please do ask.